Tales of Mithrym.
At the Sign of the Running Horse, narrated by Dolynuik. Part 9, Magic Hand. Please wait. Ducky's hand felt heavy on Elvin's shoulder. What is it, Ducky? Elvin said, turning to face him. Elvin, the big man looked oddly bothered. Why are you heading off with the wardens? Well, they asked for my help. I agreed, and now we're going after Cyrus and the young woman he took hostage. We're going to rescue her. But why? What do you mean, why? I mean, why would you? He pointed hard at Elvin. Why go after a necromancer for no reason at all? Why aren't you just letting the wardens do their job? Elvin frowned. I am letting them do their job, and I am making sure they do the best they can. They need my help to... Why would you risk your life for somebody you don't know? You're not even getting paid for crying out loud. Elvin sighed a deep sigh. He reached a hand up onto Ducky's shoulder. Ducky, I am so tired right now that I honestly think I could fall asleep in a pit of snakes and it would not bother me in the slightest. But I'm going out there because it is the right thing to do. Sometimes your action and your inaction can be the difference between life and death for someone else. And sometimes, he paused, memories of the field at Talek Valley ran past his mind's eye. Sometimes you have to take action, even when it is not expected of you. He smiled up at the big man. Even when you are not getting paid, too. Ducky stood back and stared at Elvin as he smiled, turned, and walked out the door with the captain. Some way away, Cyrus was hurrying. He had cuffed Dervil's hands and was dragging her along. The chains clanged as the two made their way through the forest without any light in that pitch-black darkness. Dervil was stumbling. She had already tripped and fallen 4 times, to which the vile man had apparently paid no heed. He would simply pull at the chain and drag her to her feet. Her body hurt all over, and she scowled with anger at being dragged away like this. Her throat itched from the wound Cyrus's knife had made, but it was only skin deep, and it had already started to heal. Like Cyrus, Dervil too had found herself in the most unpleasant situation quite unexpectedly, and she was seething about that. Even through her anger, her pain, and her blind stumbling through the darkness of the forest, she could not help but wonder in astonishment at the way in which Cyrus seemed to be navigating through the darkness without any sort of light or torch. And he did not seem to trip or to fall over or even stagger once. What in the world was going on? Could he really see in this blackness? And why did he keep murmuring to himself? She focused herself as they went. Her eyes began adjusting to the darkness, but only enough to make out vague shadows far away. She tried another method and closed her eyes. She began listening to the sounds all around her. The animals and insects, the cracking of twigs and brush under their feet, and... chanting? Yes, Cyrus was not mumbling or murmuring, he was chanting. She could not make out the words, but there was a definite rhythm to it. Suddenly, Cyrus stopped. Dervil could not see this, though, and walked straight into him. She called out with the shock of it, lost her balance again, and fell down to the ground. She quickly got to her feet, furiously squaring on her captor. She paused, though, as she heard his chanting quickly get much louder. There was nothing about it that she could make out. The words were strange, gritty, and harsh. She simply stood, baffled, almost forgetting her anger completely, captivated. She felt the chain extending from her cuffs fall to the ground. Cyrus had let go of it. Then a pair of faint, red, glowing points of light appeared. They dimly lit the area with an eerie light. As her eyes adjusted, she could see that they were the eyes of a small straw doll in Cyrus's right hand. In that red light, she saw too Cyrus's own shriveled-looking face looking back at her. His eyes were pitch black, with no hint of white in them. Dervil felt paralyzed with terror. She could not even scream or call out. "Be still," Cyrus uttered in a grating voice, "while I plant this doll in that tree over there." He walked off into the night with a glowing doll in his hand. As he turned, something in Dervil's mind clicked. Years of ducking and dodging had heightened her own senses, but it did not take a seasoned thief to see an opportunity like this when it presented itself so readily. She had some skills, though, that she had built up over the years. She shook her shackled hands, and over the right one a misty glove seemed to form. She concentrated hard, and it moved away from her and hung there in the air just in front of her. In this darkness, it was easy to open her eyes to the faint stream of magic running through all things. She smiled. As she commanded it, the spectral hand picked up the chain and, with the tension eased, she began to work the lock. It was no real work at all to free her hands completely. She willed the spectral hand to lower the chain quietly to the ground, then, with a twist of her wrist, it returned to her own hand and then vanished. Crouching down, she reached inside her coat and brought out a short hatchet that she had taken to hiding there for those times when sneaking out was just not a practical option. She inched her way along, carefully dodging the brush and thickets. Following the red light, she could make out Cyrus's shadowy form just in front of it. Pulling herself round to the side, she pressed her back against a tree, raised the axe, and readied her attack.
Tales of Mithrym are written by Jimmy Clephane. Mithrym is a fantasy world built for the Dungeon Room role-playing game system. To find out more about the world of Mithrym, or to try out the game, go to www.mithrym.com.